I wrote their names on the first letter. Before they told anyone who they were, that was probably too much. Know that now, not the warning, the names. People get nervous when you know the names too early. I wasn't trying to scare them. I was trying to keep them inside the right parts of the house. That sounds worse than I mean it, It's just that some rooms matter, some walls matter, and people always think a new house belongs to them, it doesn't. Not right away. The couple moved in. On a Thursday, I knew the truck company. First, then the plate. Then the time. They were later than expected, 40-3 minutes. I had already been parked across from the property for an hour. That isn't unusual for me. I've spent longer there, much longer. You learn a lot by waiting. You learn how houses sound when they're empty. You learn which floorboards settle first after sunset. You learn that garages hold heat longer than they should. And you learn that nobody listens to neighbors, but they read letters, or at least they read the first one. The man got out first, tall. Careful. He looked at the front steps before he looked at the house. That told me enough, the woman came out after him. She didn't look up, just carried a box and smiled at nothing. People always do that. They smile when they think something is finally theirs. I watched them make 4 trips before he opened the garage. That made my stomach tighten. Not panic, never panic, just pressure. The same pressure I get when someone reaches for the wrong drawer. He only looked inside for a second. Then he shut it again. Good, that was good, It meant I still had time. I wrote the first letter that night, short, direct, no threats, no drama, just what mattered, Daniel and Mara. Do not open the wall behind the garage shelving. Do not let anyone convince you it is just bad construction. Leave it closed. I folded it once, no envelope. That was deliberate, An envelope makes people feel protected. I didn't want that. I wanted it read immediately. I left it in their mailbox at 2:14 a.m. I know the time because I always know the time there. The street is quiet after 1, silent after 2. There's a dog 3 houses down that reacts to footsteps on the left side only, So I use the other side. There's a porch camera across the street with a weak angle. You stay low and it misses your face. These are things people should notice before moving in. They don't. At 6:48 the next morning, Daniel found the letter. He was alone on the porch. Coffee in one hand. Phone in the other. He read the first line twice. That was the names. I knew he'd stop at the names. Then he looked up. Not around. Up. That's what people do when they want a watcher to be above them. Wasn't. I was farther back. He read the rest, turned the paper over, checked the mailbox. Again. Then he laughed. Not because it was funny, because he wanted it to be small. Mara came out a minute later. He handed it to her. She read it faster than he did. It didn't laugh. That mattered. She looked at the garage. Just once, then back at him. He shrugged, folded the paper, put it in his pocket. That annoyed me more than it should have. Warnings should stay visible. That's why I wrote the second one. I waited until Afternoon. People are less careful in daylight. It was hotter than it should have been. That house keeps heat strangely. Especially near the side entrance, especially near the garage. I wrote, don't test the wall. Don't tap it. Don't measure it. If something sounds hollow, leave it hollow. Better. More specific. I slid that one under the side door. They found it together. This time, Daniel didn't laugh. He checked the street, the yard, the windows. Then he read it again. Slower. Mara asked something. I couldn't hear all of it. Just the end. Double quotes. How would they know about the wall? That was the first smart thing either of them had said. Because people always think the letters are the problem. They aren't. The problem is when the letters are correct. That evening they had someone over, a friend maybe a contractor. He wore work boots and used his hands too much when he talked. I didn't like him immediately. Men like that always knock on walls. He went into the garage at 7:19. Daniel followed. Then Mara, 3 people in there at once. I nearly went over myself. I didn't. I'm not reckless. I stayed in the car, watched the side. Gap. Counted the minutes. 7. Then the contractor came out first. Smiling. Talking. Making that shape with his hands people make when they're explaining how easy something would be. Easy. That word is ruined. More houses than fire. Daniel walked him out. Mara stayed behind. Couldn't see her anymore. That was the first moment I felt it. Not fear. Not exactly. That old, tight feeling. The one that says something is about to be uncovered too early. She came back into view after 11 seconds. Empty. Handed. Good. But not good enough. Because later that night, when their kitchen light went dark, the garage light turned on. Just once. For 3 minutes. Then off. Daniel. I thought, not Mara. Mara moved slower. She looked before touching things. Daniel touched first. Thought after. I hate that kind of man. They always believe a house is just wood and nails. Just layout. Just square footage. It never is. Not after enough years. Not after enough people. I wrote the 3rd letter at 1:03 a.m. I made it harsher. I'll admit that. I was tired of being treated like a prank. I wrote : Daniel, if you open that wall, you'll spend the rest of your life wishing you hadn't. The garage is not the worst place in that house, but it is the easiest place to start making mistakes. Do not make me write again. That last line was unnecessary. I know that. But sometimes people need a tone they can obey. I pushed it through the mail slot. Not the mailbox this time. More personal. More direct. At 7:02. Mara found it on the floor. She didn't pick it up right away. She stared at it. Then at the door. Then at the lock. Good. Finally. She read it alone. Her face changed halfway through. Not shocked. Not terrified. Worse. Convinced. She called for Daniel. He took too long to answer. When he did, he came from the garage. I felt my jaw tighten so hard it hurt. He had a flashlight in his hand. That's when I understood something. They weren't going to listen because they were afraid. They were going to keep going because now they were curious. And curiosity is always worse. Fear keeps people out. Curiosity brings tools. By noon they had gone to the police. I know because I followed them there. Not inside. I'm not stupid. I waited across from the station. Saw them walk in with the letters. Saw Daniel holding them like evidence. Saw Mara holding herself like she had already decided they should leave. She was right. They were inside 26 minutes. When they came out, Daniel looked irritated. Mara looked embarrassed. That also told me enough. The police had done what police always do with the first complaint. They made it administrative. Security camera, mailbox advice, patrol, if available. Maybe they asked about enemies. Maybe they asked about previous owners. Maybe Daniel said he didn't know anyone in town. That would be true. He didn't, but I knew him. I knew both of them. I knew Mara stopped turning the upstairs hallway light off at night after the second letter. Knew Daniel checked the garage twice before bed after the third. I knew neither of them had looked at the garden yet. That mattered. That bought time. But not enough. Because on Sunday morning, Daniel moved the garage shelving 6 inches away from the wall. Just 6. People always think small movements don't count. They do. I wrote the 4th letter before he finished breakfast, and this time I didn't bother with politeness. I wrote the 4th letter before he finished breakfast. I didn't sit in the car this time. I wrote it on the hood. Faster, harder. The pen tore the paper a little. That's fine. Sometimes it needs to look urgent. I wrote, Daniel, 6 inches is not small. Put it back exactly where it was. Measure it if you have to. If you leave it like that, you're already part of it. That last line was specific, more specific than I wanted, but he had already moved it, which meant he had already tested the wall. People always say they're just checking. There is no just checking in that garage. I didn't fold the letter this time. I left it flat, pressed it under the wiper of his car. Visible, impossible to ignore. He found it at 9:12. I know the time because he froze when he saw it. Just stood there. Keys in his hand. Door open. That's the first real reaction I've seen from him. Not laughter, not dismissal. Pause. He read it once, then again. Then he looked at the garage. Not casually, carefully, like he was measuring it in his head. Good, that's what I needed. Mara came out behind him. He didn't show her immediately. That was new. Before, he always handed the letters to her. Now he kept it, folded it once. Too tight, put it in his pocket. That's when I knew I was losing him. People who keep the letters start deciding which parts matter, and they always decide wrong. He left 10 minutes later. Work, probably routine. Routine is useful. It gives you space to correct things. Mara stayed. She didn't go into the garage. She didn't even look at it. Instead, she went to the side door, checked the lock, then checked it again, then once more. 3 times, exactly like the note from before. I didn't tell her to do that today. That wasn't today's instruction. That was repetition. That meant she was remembering something. Not consciously, but physically. That's how it always starts. The body remembers before the mind allows it. I stayed longer that day, longer than I should have, watching, waiting for him to come back, counting the hours. At 5:43, Daniel returned. He went straight to the garage. Didn't take off his shoes, didn't speak. Just opened the door and stepped inside. I moved closer. Not enough to be seen, just enough to hear. There's a gap near the side panel. You have to know where to stand. He dragged the shelving slow. It scraped against the floor. Too loud. He stopped halfway, then pushed it further, more than 6 inches this time, closer to a foot. That made my chest tighten. Not fear, wrongness. He tapped the wall, once, then again, listening. That hollow sound. It always sounds harmless the first time, like empty space, like nothing. That's what convinces them. I almost went in. I don't do that. I don't break pattern, but I almost did. Instead, I wrote again. 5th letter, shorter. No explanation. Put it back, now. I slid it under the garage door. He didn't see it immediately. He tapped again, then paused, then stepped back. That's when he noticed the paper. He bent down, picked it up, read it, and this time, he didn't look around. He didn't check the street. He didn't check the windows. He just stared at the wall, longer than before. Then he laughed, quiet, different from the first time. Not dismissive, closer to relief, like he had decided something. I hate that sound. It means they've chosen curiosity over caution. He didn't put the shelf back. He left it. Walked out, closed the garage. Didn't lock it. That's when I knew this wasn't going to stay controlled. That night, they didn't turn the garage light on. Not once. But the kitchen light stayed on longer than usual. Mara kept looking toward the hallway. Daniel didn't look at the garage again. Not even once. Avoidance. That's worse than curiosity. Curiosity makes them act. Avoidance makes them wait. And waiting lets things settle. Shift. Adjust. At 1:27 a.m., the garage light turned on by itself. No movement before, no shadow. Just on. I didn't write that. I don't control the house. I never did. I only keep people from pushing it too far, from opening the wrong parts, from making the same mistake. The light stayed on for 11 minutes, then off. I watched the whole time, counting, listening. Nothing came out. No sound, no movement. But something had changed. I could feel it, not outside, inside the pattern. Something had been triggered, something small, but enough. The next morning, there was no letter to write, because the next step wasn't mine anymore. They had already done it. I didn't plan to write another letter. That wasn't how this usually goes. There's a sequence. Warnings, adjustment, correction. Then it stabilizes. They listen, or they leave. That's the pattern. But Daniel didn't listen, and Mara didn't leave, so the pattern didn't hold. That's when things start to shift. Not in the house, in the timing. Everything comes a little earlier, a little faster, like something is catching up. The police came back that morning. 2 of them this time. Different car, different posture. That means it moved past a complaint. Now it's a situation. Daniel did most of the talking. He stood outside with them letters in his hand again. He pointed at the mailbox, then the door, then the garage. Too much focus on the garage. That's not where the problem starts. That's just where people notice it first. Mara stayed inside. She watched from the kitchen window. Didn't open the door. That matters. She's the only one who understands something is wrong. Not what, but enough to hesitate. The officers checked the locks, looked at the camera across the street, walked the perimeter. Routine. Predictable. They didn't look at the ground. They never do. That's where the small things stay. Marks, pressure, movement. The things that don't belong to any one day. One of them went into the garage. I didn't like that. He stood in the same place Daniel had. Same angle, same distance from the wall. He tapped it. Once, then harder. Listening. Always listening. Like the wall owes them an answer. He said something to Daniel. I couldn't hear all of it. Just one word. Space. That word again. People love that word. It makes everything feel empty, safe. They left after 18 minutes. Too short. Not enough to change anything. Just enough to make Daniel feel justified. That's worse. Because now it's not just curiosity. Now it's confirmation. He went back inside immediately. Didn't wait, didn't think. Straight to the garage. I moved closer again. Closer than before. I could hear everything now. The shelving moved again. More than before. He dragged it all the way to the side, fully exposing the wall. That's the point you're not supposed to reach. That's the line. I felt it this time. Not pressure. Something heavier. Like a mistake settling into place. He ran his hand across the surface. Slow, then stopped. There's a section there. Slightly different. You can't see it unless you know where to look. But you can feel it. That's enough. He pressed it. Nothing happened. Not at first. It never does. That's why they keep going. He stepped back, then pushed harder, and this time it moved. Not much, just enough. A small shift, a sound behind it, dull, contained. I closed my eyes for a second. I don't do that often, but I knew that sound. I've heard it before. more than once. That's when I started writing again. I didn't go back to the car. I didn't wait. I wrote it right there, against the side of the house. Faster than before. Messier. I didn't care. I wrote, "You've already gone too far. Put it back now. Do not open it. You won't be able to fix it after." I didn't sign it. I didn't use his name. This wasn't about warning anymore. This was about stopping. I slid it under the garage door again. He saw it immediately this time. Didn't even bend down right away. Just stared at it. Then at the wall. Then back at the paper. And for the first time, he hesitated. Real hesitation. Not confusion. Choice. That should have been enough. That should have stopped him. It didn't. Because Mara walked in. She saw the wall, saw the gap, and her face changed. Not curiosity. Recognition. That's worse. She didn't ask what he was doing. She asked, "Could it move before?" That's when I understood something I didn't want to. This wasn't the first time for her either. Not fully, but enough to notice the difference. Enough to ask the right question. Daniel didn't answer. He just pushed again, harder. The panel shifted more this time. A narrow opening, dark behind it. No light reaching in. That's how it always looks. Like it doesn't go anywhere. Like it's shallow. It's not. I stepped forward, closer than I've ever been. I could see inside now. Just a little. Enough to know. It was the same. Exactly the same. That's the part that never changes. No matter how many times Daniel leaned in, trying to see. Mara stepped back. That was the right instinct. Too late. He reached for the edge, to pull it wider, and I said it, out loud. Not a letter, not a note. My voice. Stop. Bah. He froze. For a second, then slowly, he turned his head. Not toward the street. Not toward the door. Toward me. Exactly where I was standing. That's not supposed to happen. They're not supposed to see me. Not like that. Not at that moment. He looked directly at me. No confusion. No surprise. Just recognition. Like he already knew. Like he had been expecting it. That's when I understood the worst part. I haven't just been watching this house. I've been part of it. For a long time. Long enough that people start to recognize me right before they open it. He shouldn't have been able to see me. That's not how this works. I stay outside. I watch. I correct. I leave the letters. That's all. That's how it's always been. But he looked straight at me. No confusion. No searching, just recognition. Like I was already part of the situation. Like I had always been there. I stepped back. Instinct. Distance usually fixes things. It puts me back where I belong. Outside the sequence. But it didn't. because he didn't look away. He kept staring. Then he said something, not loud, not aggressive, just flat. How many times? I didn't answer. I don't talk to them. Not directly. That breaks it. That makes it worse. But something in me reacted anyway. That same feeling, late. Like I had already answered before I chose not to. He turned back to the wall. That small opening, still there, unfinished. He didn't hesitate this time. He pulled hard. The panel gave wider, enough for his arm, then his shoulder. Mara stepped back again. Further this time. She didn't stop him. She just watched, like she knew it was already too late. That part is always the same. There's always one person who understands, but doesn't act, because acting would mean admitting it's real. And by the time it feels real, it's already happened. Daniel leaned in, trying to see inside, trying to make sense of it. That's the mistake. There is no sense in it. There's only repetition. He reached further, pulled again. The opening widened enough for him to step through. That's when I moved. I didn't plan it. I don't do that. But I stepped forward, into the garage, fully. That's not something I do. I crossed the line. The space felt wrong immediately. Heavier, like the air doesn't belong to the same place. Daniel didn't turn this time. He just went in, one step, then another, disappearing past the edge of the wall. Mara stayed where she was, breathing faster now, hands tight. She looked at me again, this time differently, not recognizing, understanding. That's words, she said. You wrote them. Not a question, a statement. I nodded. I don't know why. That wasn't necessary. But it was true. And truth feels important in that moment. She looked at the opening, then back at me. Does he come back? That's the question they always reach. Not what is it? Not what's inside. Does he come back? I didn't answer, because I don't know. I never did. I only know what happens before. The steps dot the warnings, the corrections. I never stay long enough to see after. That's not my part. There was a sound from inside. Not loud, not clear, just movement, contained, like something adjusting to him. Mara flinched, stepped back, then another step, toward the door. Good. That's the right instinct. Leave. Don't finish the pattern. She hesitated once, looked at the opening again. That's the moment. The same one. Curiosity trying to pull her back. I said it again. Don't. This time she listened. She turned, walked out, didn't run, just left, closed the door behind her. That part matters. It always does. I stood there, in the garage, closer to the wall than I've ever been. The opening still there, wider now, unstable. I could feel it. The shift, not physical, structural, like something had been completed or restarted. I stepped back, then further, out of the garage, out to the yard, back to where I belong, outside, watching, correcting. Too late. I stayed there for a long time, longer than I should have, waiting for something, a sound, a movement, anything. Nothing came out. It never does. That's the problem. It doesn't give anything back. Not immediately. Days passed. Police returned. More questions, more searching. No answers. The opening was gone when they checked. Sealed, like it had never been moved. They measured the wall. Nothing unusual. They checked the floor. No marks. They checked the garage light. Working normally. Everything correct. Mara didn't stay. She left that same day. Didn't take much. Didn't come back. She told them everything. About the letters. About me. They asked about my face. My name, details. She couldn't give them anything, because that's not what people remember. They remember the feeling, not the person. That helps? It always has. The house stayed empty after that. For a while. It always does, until someone else decides it's just a house, that it's just walls, just space. And I'll be there again, watching, writing, correcting, trying to keep them from reaching that point. The one Daniel reached, the one they all reach eventually, because no one listens to the last letter. They only understand it after they've already opened it.